Hey, this is Nathalie Kalbach, and I'm super excited to have my dear friend Marsha Valk from the Netherlands here again. Marsha has been with Creative JumpStart for many years. She's a wonderful artist and crafter and maker, everything you can imagine. She has a great way to combine patterns. She's always awesome in finding inspiration. No, you are around her, and then like turning it into something that she creates. She is a printmaker. She does wonderful prints, and she's always on the hunt for some of those print techniques that necessarily usually use like a printing press, and thinking about how she can turn that into something that can be used with a gel plate. So she is really fun. And we just did a great workshop together with our friend Birgit Koopsen, an online workshop called Time Traveler. We had so much fun in this 3-week workshop. Well, Marsha, she's just delightful. I know her for many years. We have seen each other several times in person. And yeah, I hope one day we will see each other again. Hey, Marsha, how are you?
Yes. Thanks for having me, Nat.
So, Marsha, you are in a little town in the Netherlands called Amersfoort, right?
Yes.
Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Strike.
Amersfoort.
Okay, kind of right.
Yeah.
And she's in her beautiful studio, and we will talk a little bit about that later. But I was hinting on that you're really loving printmaking, and actually you're taking this. It's not really a course. I mean, you can kind of explain it a little bit later, but you're taking this very extensive kind of printmaking course. So how important is, tell us a little bit about that course, and then tell us a little bit about why it is so important for you as an arts and craft teacher to take classes and also learn new techniques.
Yeah, so I take a printmaking course, and they call it a course, but it's more of a printmaking group. So people come together on a Wednesday night, and then they all do their own stuff, but there's a teacher there. And I started like 2 years ago. So this fall, it's going to be my third year. And of course, this year it was all different, so I didn't have that many lessons. But anyway, there's a teacher there. And so if I want to learn something about etching or dry points or aquatints or lino cutting or I don't know, whatever I want to learn about, then I can tell him I want to learn about this, and then maybe he will explain to me, or there's someone else in the group that can tell me all about it. And the fun thing about all these people doing their own stuff is that you can look over there and then see something that maybe you want to know more about. So you have a lot of like people influencing each other, and then we also have a theme that we work with for the whole year. So for last year it was the sea, and then people make stuff with the theme the sea. And yeah, well, I wanted to do that course forever, and I couldn't get in, and I finally got in because I wanted to learn more about printmaking techniques. Of course, because of the gel printing, but also because it has always interested me.
Yeah.
Like from an early age, I once, I think my parents took me to like cultural center or something like that, and there was something maybe like a puppet theater or someone who told the story of Puss in Boots. And then afterwards we got to make our own color graph, and it went into the big press.
Cool.
And I was like, ooh, this is like real art, and I was like 6 or something. But I still remember that, and so it must have made a big impression on me.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Right.
Yeah, it's just what I like. It's something about the blocks of color, and then also that maybe you don't need a lot to make a finished product, and it doesn't mean you don't need a lot because it's a lot of work to make it.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know what I like about it, but I know I like it. I know when I see it. Okay, that's what I like.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I wanted to learn more about the printmaking techniques because I felt like I don't know enough. But then, of course, I took the course and I discovered, well, actually, I already learned a lot by just the gel printing and also stamping, because stamping and lino has similarities. And you do a lot of techniques in gel printing that actually has names, but you don't know it. So now I also know some more technical terms, and but the most important thing is, of course, being with other people and being influenced from people outside of our world.
Yes.
Because all the others in the group are like former teachers or scientists, or there's a psychiatrist, and they all have a very different jobs and very different backgrounds, and it's healthy and also super fun to talk to these people and then learn how they approach stuff.
Yes.
And what they find interesting, and I'm learning about opera and artists that I have never heard about, or I hear stories about what these teachers experienced when they were still teaching, because a lot of them are already pensioners. So it's good and healthy, and it's fun, and I'm learning.
That sounds so cool. I'm really, really envious of you that you have that group. That sounds like amazing. And I agree. I think it's very important to, get exposed to other people and learn. I always, when I take a class that is not catered toward our niche group, you get exposed to people that know other artists, and you look into that, or other topics, as you said, right? And also, I think it's interesting that you said that you picked a theme for a whole year, because that is also helpful, that you see how other people interpret the theme. And I think that's what I love about Creative JumpStart as well, and also about our time traveler workshop, where we picked that theme of time traveling. And now with Creative JumpStart 2021, we picked storytelling. It's just how different everyone feels or thinks about the theme, and then shows that. And I think you learn so much. You get exposed to these all other worlds, or ways you just, it just expands your horizon. I love that. That's my favorite thing about having big groups and different viewpoints.
Yeah, and another thing is it forces you to work in a series,
and
that's different from the work I do, because in the crafts industry, you're always looking for something new, something different. Every next thing has to be totally different from the thing before, and so you never get to see the evolvement. If you start a year and you start with one idea, and then you keep working on that idea, and you get to a place that you could never have imagined beforehand, and um, yeah, that's important for an artist, if I can say that about myself.
Yeah, definitely. I sometimes feel in what we do, it's a little bit tough because you're on this hunt of, oh, I need to show something new and I need to show something, special. And it's like, well, sometimes I have this little rut where I'm like, there's nothing that hasn't been out there yet, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're like, this is like such a great idea, chances are that someone else has done it similarly. Like whenever someone would say, I invented that technique,
no, forget it.
yes. Or you find out you're doing something with printmaking and then you're like, well,
Yes.
there's a reason why, you kind of like had that, because someone else did that like 150 years ago or 100 years ago.
That's what I mean. I said, oh, that has a name.
Right? So besides being in that group, do you, I know you're on Pinterest, like we both love Pinterest. Do you go out and you seek printmakers, like artists that that use printmaking, and then you try to learn about that particular technique or how they did it?
So I'm still learning about what artists used printmaking, like Picasso used printmaking, but he did it all, like lino cutting and etching and dry print and everything. He tried it all, and I, of course, before I started this course, I was already familiar with Picasso, but I didn't always put one together. No, maybe it's more like I have a book, or maybe I'm looking for a new idea, and I have some books that I always pull out with a lot of printmaking techniques in them, and then I think, well, okay, this is something interesting, and then I look into that printmaking technique, and then maybe I find an artist that did that a lot.
Yeah.
That could happen.
It's interesting that a ton of the artists that we know as like painters, for example, have been dabbling in printmaking. And I remember the first time where it really dawned on me was when at MoMA in New York they had a Degas exhibition, and he was inspired by taking the train and seeing how the landscape just kind of like like just went by in this kind of like blurry manner. And so he actually was, I think he was at the time doing printmaking. And so what he started doing was he was like kind of like swooshing off the paint. So he would paint, in oil paint you have a little bit more time to really paint on a plate. And so he would like then just kind of like take a rag and that really painfully, nicely painted, landscape, and would just like smear it a little bit so that it looks like he was going with, with a train. So, and then he studied this method and learned how he would like paint that instead of printing that. And that's how we know some of his, paintings are in that manner. So I think it's so interesting that all these like, as you said, like Max Ernst and Pablo Picasso, Degas, Gauguin, like all these painters have actually dabbled into printmaking, right?
Yeah, and what I also, because that's something that I was thinking about beforehand before this interview. Something that really attracts me to printmaking that I didn't realize when I was 7 is that it's very experimental. Like, and that's something that I really love. And it's like, oh, let me try this, or what happens if I do this? And not being afraid of the outcome, because you never know what you're going to get.
Right.
Could be like a disaster.
Right.
You don't know. But that's something that I really love.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's what I love about gel printing too.
So, Marsha, do you feel that so the theme for Creative JumpStart 2021 is storytelling?
Yeah.
Do you feel you're a storyteller?
Yeah. Like, it's always been about everything I do. It's always been about like images and text, and then that was like scrapbooking,
Yeah.
but also the education that I chose
Yeah.
to study journalism. So that's also like storytelling, and yeah, well, the scrapbooking is a major storytelling part, and now it's just mostly images or some kind of like image and then less text, but there's always a story there.
What I loved was in the time traveler workshop that we did together. By the way, you can still sign up for that too, as well.
Yes, you can. If you've missed it, you haven't missed out yet.
Exactly. So we did. We both. We chose our own time eras, and now we can say it because the workshop is live, right? Birgit did Flower Power. You did the '80s, and I did Art Deco. And what I loved about your part was that you actually had kept some things from the '80s, and you were showing that in the workshop, and then you basically, like, from these personal things that you kept from the '80s, you draw the inspiration. So while that is something that everyone then can replicate, for you that was really, really personal, because it came from something that you're not a hoarder, you're actually quite the opposite, but you kept like just some very precious things from that time period.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like this, you already kind of chose these things to keep because they're special to you, and then you incorporated that in your art. And I guess like what you made in that workshop is actually very personal to you.
Yeah. But it's almost always very personal, and that might not be like obvious for everyone, but almost everything I make is very personal.
Right.
And if there are people watching that have been a part of Creative JumpStart before, they know that it's always very personal, because most times I say it.
Yes, that's true. Besides, you're also making the most beautiful videos. I have to say that if you haven't seen Marsha's videos yet, she is not only good in teaching, she also is amazing in how she puts those videos together. It's always like, oh my God, if I had only like a slice of that, it would be so amazing. You do such a wonderful, it's eye candy.
Thank you. Thank you. So I haven't recorded the video yet, so no pressure, right?
No pressure. That's so funny. I know. So I said, because of the theme, but also because I wanted to tie everyone's interview a little bit together, I asked you if you have an object or something in your studio or where you create that brings you lots of joy and you love to have around, and that you maybe can tell a story about.
So I have these.
Oh my God, they're so cute.
And they are like, I don't know, maybe 70s because of the... Or maybe 60s, maybe a little bit of Flower Power, I'm not sure.
It could be 60s.
And they have like little magnets in their on their mouths, and they kiss, and they have these wobbly. So it's like super kitsch, but I keep them around, and I've had them since childhood, and I have no idea where I got them. So somebody gave them to me. I think maybe they were a gift. And they were in my childhood bedroom, and now I still have that shelf over there. Is almost all like childhood toys or stuff that I had in my bedroom.
So cool.
some of it is newer, but it's like a little childhood shrine.
And you basically, I said that before, and it's funny because we were making this joke that we were like, if we would ask the students in the time traveler workshop, and we can say that now because the interview is in December, you know, who of the three teachers is the more like a hoarder, then probably people would think that's Marsha because she had all these like 80s things that she could show. But actually, you're the most organized, and you are very, very good in throwing things out in a way, aren't you?
Yep, I have to, because we don't have like massive houses and massive rooms here in the Netherlands. It's all small stuff, and if I keep everything, then I won't be able to move around my house. That's the most frustrating thing about being in the craft industry, because I like to use things up, but sometimes I don't get the chance because packaging changes, or there's a new product and everyone wants to see the new product, and I'm like, yeah, but I have all of this. What am I going to do with this stuff?
Yeah.
And then I donate a lot, and sometimes I still try to use it up. I'm calling myself a printmaker now.
Yeah.
As you said.
Yeah.
And that also helps me. It's also like for me, not just for me to tell you what I do or what I like to do, but also for me because it makes it easier to part with stuff. Like when you say I'm a crafter, you have to keep everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because you can use everything. And when you say I'm a printmaker, well, then you can say, well, okay, this is over now. That's scrapbooking. I don't need that anymore. Of course, in my group, they are really purists, so they don't do a lot of stuff on top. But yeah, well, I'm a mixed media
right
person,
you can do whatever you want.
I rediscovered colored pencils. Because I never knew how to color pencils over acrylic paint.
Yeah.
Some do, some don't. But on a print where you use ink, colored pencils work perfectly.
That's cool. That's actually really fun. And I mean, if you think about it, when people use stamping and then color in the stamped images, it's pretty similar. I mean, it's of course but if you think about it, it is there's where it's coming from, right?
Yeah. But then of course, okay, I'm into some stamping, but I'm not into the stamping and then coloring in stamps per se.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is similar.
Yeah. Yeah, super fun. So that was super amazing. Marsha, where can people that goes in the blooper section, man.
I haven't danced yet.
Nice. It stays in. No. Goes in the bloopers. I should do a bloopers with all the interviews. Maybe I'm too late. I should have. Maybe I start now. So.
You still will have plenty.
Right, Marsha. Where can people find you?
I would say Instagram, Marsha Valk, all one word. I'm not on Facebook that much. I have a website, marshavalk.com. Yeah, that's it. I think. Yeah.
So check her out, and also sign up for Creative JumpStart 2021.
Yes,
you're in for a treat with Marsha's video, I can tell you already. Not just to put pressure on her, but because it's true. And also, if you see this on her channels, please use her link, because that's going to be an affiliate link, and she will earn a fee for it. And that's, you're not paying extra, but she will get a bigger pie piece, and we can all use that. And, that would be awesome. Thank you so much, Marsha. I cannot wait to see you.
Nat.
And
it was fun.
That was fun. See you soon, hon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.